15 Lunch and Learn live session in HR and People Analytics series on LinkedIn. We are live. It's 12:30 Paris time. It's 11:30 UK time. And around the world, wherever you are, welcome to this LinkedIn Live. It's the place to be if you are an HR leader, innovator, futurist, passionate about future of work. My name is Nicolas Levani. For those who don't know me, it's the first time you are joining. I'm a LinkedIn top voice, and I'm so glad you are joining us today. It's a lunchtime, as I said. If you are working from home, you are taking a break in the office, you are exactly the right place to be to fill your mind and your career about our discussion today. Today's session is packed with insights, stories, practical takeaways. I promise you it will be worth every minute of your lunch break or breakfast. Before we bring our main guest into the conversation, I would like delighted and welcome as every week, the 15th one, George Kimmich. Good afternoon, George. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
Very good, very good. It's sunny in Paris, so I guess it's sunny as well in UK, as I see.
Bit overcast where I am, but yes, it's warm, it's dry.
Very good, very good. Very glad to be with us, George. I would like also we have an incredible guest today. I'm thrilled to start with someone who expertise in leadership is second to none. I would like to have Andy Nizevich. Andy, welcome to the show.
Thank you, and congratulations on saying the name right. I've got all sorts of weird and wonderful pronunciations of that over the years. Such a lovely, kind introduction as well. I'm delighted to be here. Thanks very much for having me on.
We are very delighted with George to have you. You are very, very active as well, in the comments in a lot of topics of future of work. So I'm very, very glad to you be with us. Andy has founded in business in 2022 after 20-year experience and career in the RAFE. Over those years, he served under some truly inspiring leaders and some truly terrible ones as well. He saw firsthand the damage of bad leadership and can cause, and even hearing of marriage breaking down under the stress of toxic management. With Andy, we will, discuss today about the topic that is unscripted leadership when models don't fit and you still have to lead. And don't worry, if you miss anything today conversation, it will be recorded and it will be available later on my YouTube channel, and I will share the link directly in the chat. Before we dive in, let's see who is with us today. Drop your location. I'm within Paris. George and Andy, they are from UK, and please drop your location in the comments, and we can see how global our Lunch and Learn community are, so that we can, discuss all together. And every topic that I'm telling, we are discussing every Friday is global, but it's interesting also, to know what is, where is your location. So now let's come back to our, presentation and this topic today. If you have any question, please drop your question in the chat. George will, bring it, directly to us, and we will discuss with Andy if you have any question. So now I see that we have one person, Steve from Denmark. Welcome, Steve, to the show. And I hope that you will, have all your question, and you can put your question also during the conversation today in the chat. So bring your question. The very first, let's before diving into this topic, Andy, I would like to discuss about the leadership. Leadership books, framework, models can be powerful guides, right? They give structure, language, tools, etc. But the truth is that real leadership rarely unfolds in neat, predictable patterns.
Correct.
Sometimes the playbook doesn't match the moment, the crisis no one saw coming. In these moments, leadership becomes unscripted. It's no longer about following a model. It's about reading the room, trusting your judgment, and leading with courage when the maps run out. Unscripted leadership is messy. It's human. It demands adaptability, empathy, ability to make decisions, and with incomplete information, and all while keeping our people engaged, supported, inspired. And here's the paradox: is often in these unscripted moments that leaders earn the deepest trust. What is your thought about this unscripted, leadership? First of all.
Yeah, thanks. And it's really good point, because there are loads and loads of books out there. There's loads of psychological models and studies that have been done on leadership. And you use the word guide, and I think that's the perfect way to use them, is a guide, not a must do. Great examples, things like 360-degree feedback. It's a really famous model. I think it's a global model that gets used all over the world, and in a lot of circumstances has some absolutely fantastic results from it. However, I also know of lots and lots of organizations that have tried to implement a 360-degree model of feedback, and it's had some disastrous results, because the people instigating it thought that they were open-minded and able to receive the honest feedback, but when it came, they didn't handle it very well. So intent versus interpretation, I think, is one of the biggest challenges with any aspect of leadership. I've never met, in fact, no, I have met one senior leader who admitted that he is a toxic leader, and he wore it as a badge of honor. Surprise, surprise, we never worked together. But that's only one out of the thousands of people with management, with leadership responsibility. There's only been one person that's kind of wore that as a badge of honor. Everybody else knows what they intend. They don't intend to be mistrustful. They don't intend to be difficult or malicious or anything like that. They're doing the best that they can with what they know and how they're feeling at the time. So when we just try to put models into our leadership, and we're just kind of taking what the book says, often it's like trying to jam a square peg into a round hole. We need to think about, right, who am I? What is my emotional state? How do I interpret what this book is telling me? How are other people going to receive this? How do I need to frame it in order for it to be interpreted in the way that I intend it? And I think a lot of analysis needs to go. And sometimes you'll take 80% of the model, but change the other 20% in order for it to fit you and your organization. Sometimes that model might not work at all. And I think that kind of analysis is really crucial before we just say, oh, transformational leadership is the best way to lead. It has fantastic results. It also takes a lot of time. And when time is of the essence, actually, it's a really ineffective form of leadership.
Thank you so much, Andy. Yes, very great introduction about this assessment of the leadership. One thing that you have mentioned is about trust, and I would like to share this graph tracks the percentage of employees strongly agree that they trust their organization leadership, and while is low. You see, year after year, we are going, a low leadership, and has been declining ever since, now sitting at around 21% of trust. This is not just a statistic, is a signal for me. And for a lot of leaders, trust is the foundation of engagement, as you said, of collaboration, resilience, and without it, even the best strategies, technologies, processes, everything can be a mess.
I would agree with Andy there, Nicholas, because we see so much of leadership and leadership training, but then people need to put that training into a context, and that context has to be within their own workplace. It's you can't just take it carte blanche.
So George and I have got very similar backgrounds, although George spent significantly longer in the Royal Air Force than I did. But we've both got that background. So we've been through the RAF's leadership development program, and I used to teach that. And I know I'm biased, but I believe I'm right. hands down, best leadership development, leadership training there is out there. What we taught, the way that we taught it, the skill of the facilitators there, absolutely second to none. But the RAF is a huge organisation, and there is a lot of terrible leadership. But that doesn't mean those terrible leaders are terrible people.
Yeah.
They're people who are busy, who have got stresses, who are under pressure, who have got things going on in their lives. And as human beings, we can only do the best with what we've got at the time. So that's where a lot of this leadership training, let's say somebody got promoted to manager 10 years ago, and they did a leadership training course 10 years ago and have never had any reinforcement of that knowledge. Well, I don't know about you, but I learned algebra when I did GCSEs at school, and I've got no idea how to simplify an equation. Absolutely no idea, but I was taught it. So it's the reinforcement of these lessons that is often the most important thing to keep on kind of those new synapses in the brain when we learn something new, to keep on reinforcing those so those messages get through quicker. And I think one of the reasons why trust is so low, and I love the research that you put on LinkedIn all the time, by the way, it's really useful for me for my own marketing materials, if I'm being honest. But again, for you see so much that I don't. So trust is a really fickle thing. You have different levels of trust. So you can have immediate trust. So when you meet somebody for the first time, you've got no reason not to trust them, but that is kind of really low level. It's really easy to lose that trust. And when trust is lost at that level, it's really hard to get it back, because it only takes a really minor thing, something that for us, because we know what we intended, we don't understand, we don't recognize how it was interpreted by other people, that's gone. But if you're able to do the work, if you're able to kind of build that into kind of core trust, then you can make mistakes and that trust remains. But because of the dynamic world of business, of workplaces, things change all the time. People are under stress, people are under pressure. There's so many moving goalposts and conflicting priorities. That ability to get to that core level of trust is often really reduced.
Steve from Denmark has actually put a piece up here. I don't know how to pronounce this. It's spelled Lencioni.
Patrick Lencioni's team dysfunction model.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he says the subject's close to his heart. He says a lot in particular vulnerability-based trust and healthy conflict debate. Great tool to help us navigate the territory of connection. I've never heard of that one, so...
That's a fantastic book, George. I'd highly, highly recommend it. He's wrote it as a fictional story, so it's really easy to assume. And then, kind of the second half, he goes into the psychology of it. But yeah, really great book, and it's a really great point by Steve. If you think about the people you trust the most, often they're the people that will tell you when you're being a bit of a DICK. I'm not sure what your language requirements are, but they're the ones that are going to tell you that you're not being your best person. They're the ones that are going to tell you you're being out of order or you're wrong. And it's the ability to have those difficult conversations that actually increases trust. But our emotional center of the brain says, oh, I'm going to tell that person that they're wrong, and they're not going to like this, so they're not going to like me, they're not going to trust me, and things like that. And that happens so often. But think about your parents. You love your parents, but your parents told you off. If you're old enough, they might have smacked your bottom, or maybe even worse. But because they did it with love and with the intent to help you improve and develop and grow, then that trust actually gets built through the conflict.
Wonderful. And I loved, how you described the importance of trust. I'm looking at the chat as well. We have a lot of people from different area. We have from Europe, we have Steve, of course, from Denmark. We have Carlos from Madrid, Spain. We have from London, of course, from Nicole. Nicole, she's also, putting a lot of comments in my daily post. Thank you so much, Andy. I would like, to go to the next slide. And the next slide is about, I would like, to bring up this next visual because it's really captured the essence of leadership.
Yeah.
That how leadership is living, breathing practice, and something we grow like these plants. Is we are growing. And there is three key findings to be a better leaders and be a better leaders. As you said, automatically we will have better trust as well, a trust level. uh, do you agree with these three key buildings: reframe beliefs, practice deliberately, and hardwired new behaviors? I love the plant metaphor here, but when leaders are under pressure and facing situations that they don't fit any model, how they can still create this space for people to reframe, to grow as well, uh, and to impact trust.
And I think actually, when you can look at yourself, so I'm not necessarily referring to leaders as in people with specific job titles. I'm talking about leaders as people at any level who are able to provide influence.
Mhm.
Leadership isn't about being a certain type of leader. So if you look at the Tannenbaum-Schmidt continuum of leadership, you've got tell at one end, you've got abdicate at the other end, and you've got lots of different styles of leadership within the outlet. At the tell end, you've got manager-centered leadership. At the abdicate end, you've got subordinate-centered leadership. There are people who will respond far better to the tell side of leadership. There are people who will respond terribly to that and need more of a delegate style of leadership. So understanding what people need in order for them to give you what you need from them is one of the most crucial skills. So it's not about my belief. It's not about how I want to be treated. It's not about how I want to be spoken to. We've got to reframe that and think, right, what is it that they need? And it's not just about they're married with children, or they like this particular sport, or they support that particular team and things like that. It's not, okay, they're going through this at the moment. It's right, who are they in here? Who are they that they don't know who they are? And that is often really, really difficult to get right. There's loads of psychometric type assessments out there that help us with that. But when we can kind of tap into that, and like I said, give people what they need in order for them to give you what you need from them, then we can start that step one, reframing beliefs. Because I know, obviously, Nicholas, you're from France. We've got people from throughout Europe. Me and George, UK. I know certainly in the UK culture, something that's bred into us right from the youngest age possible is treat people how you like to be treated yourself. It's one of the 10 commandments, isn't it? For anybody who's Christian, do unto others as you'd have done unto yourself. The problem with that is that most people need something different from what you need. So that belief, treat people how you want to be treated yourself, is actually really inefficient when it comes to leadership. We need to understand how they need to be treated, not how we want to be treated. And I think that's the first step in kind of reframing that belief.
No, very important, very important. Thank you for pointing out the treatment. How we treat our employees, how we treat our team. We expect them to be treated as the same. Absolutely, absolutely. Now let's discuss about another point very important. We discuss about trust. We discuss about how leadership can grow. But the third point is about honesty. Honesty of leaders is also very important. I would like Andy to want to pause on this next piece of data, and both revealing and a little bit sobering, because this 360-degree assessment that you have mentioned as well revealed that in this findings, while some leaders make slight or moderate gains in honesty, significant improvement is rare. So, in fact, only a small percentage of leaders show a major leap forward, and for some, honesty even declines over time. Honesty is one of those leadership qualities that easy to talk about, much harder to constantly live out, but especially under pressure, when the stakes are high, or even the truth feels uncomfortable, it's also the foundation of trust, as we discussed before. And here's I love to explore with you, Andy. The next insight really drives how we can, bring this honesty to have engagement as well between the companies, between the employees, how we can develop honesty inside the team.
You might as well ask how long is a piece of string, because that is I love the question. It's really challenging question, but because the truth is I don't think there is one single thing that you can do, because again the vast majority of people who are in leadership positions believe that they're being honest, but they also recognize that they can't always be 100% honest, because there are so many unknowns. So developing strategic plans to kind of move the company forward, there's so many moving parts and contributory elements that some will work out, some don't work out, things get delayed and things happen, that if you were to just be 100% honest all of the time, actually you end up creating chaos, because people start working one way and then we have to move over here, and then we might have to move over that way, and then we have to move over that way. So a lot of time leaders justifiably keep things to themselves in order to prevent chaos. But again, it comes down to intent versus interpretation, because there are going to be elements within that the people who aren't aware of kind of the stuff that's happening at the strategic level, the people at the operational or the tactical levels of an organization, they don't know what's going on up here. So that we, as human beings, we can only see what's right in front of us. And then if something happens, you say, well, hang on a minute, you told us this. Then it's very, very easy for kind of, again, that trust to be lost. So, but at the same time, just saying something simple like, yes, there's things that are changing, that's not going to work for everybody. That's going to work for certain personality types. There are other personality types, and we say, well, what's changing? What do you mean? So there has to come a time, the more senior you become within leadership, you have to kind of accept that there are going to be misinterpretations of what your intent is, and that is going to impact the level of trust that people give you, how honest that they see you. But if you've got the mindset that I am doing the right thing for the right reasons, I'm not trying to manipulate people, I'm not trying to be deceitful, I'm not trying to fill my coffers at the expense of other people, what I'm just trying to do the best that I can so that we can move forward as a business, that I can help people develop within their careers. Ultimately, that's the right mindset, because if you have that as a start point, you will make mistakes along the way because we're human beings. But I think people see that. People will see that you're just trying to do your best. And be honest where you can, I think is the most important thing.
Yeah. Absolutely. No, thank you for sharing the totally right. We can use the trust and honesty very, very easily. George, in the comments, you see something?
Yeah, I just seeing another one from Steve, and he said you could add another plant shoot of awareness for me. The other three are actions triggered by the opportunity of self-reflection that the awareness presents to us. So
yeah,
that.
And we have also Jose is saying something. Hello, Jose. Welcome to the show.
That question by Jose there, does not intent come across in your day-to-day behaviors? I think that's something that we like to believe is true. But ultimately, there's so much of our behaviors, the kind of the micro indications on our face, the tone of voice, the body language that we come across, that's dictated by unconscious elements. So the stresses and the pressures that we're under. So while we might intend to be happy or joking, somebody might, again, because of things that might be going on with them, they might interpret that as you being snarky or snappy or rude and things like that. And that's why leadership is so nuanced and contextualized and difficult, because you can't control how people are going to interpret you. All you can do is do your best, and where there is conflict, lean into it early to try and address that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for bringing that. In this conversation, the other topic I would like to discuss is about leadership effectiveness. Leadership effectiveness is important because how much impact a single behavior can have on leaders' overall effectiveness. There is also these findings that you can see here. And what we are looking at here is the average leadership effectiveness score when a leader performs poorly, below average, or above average, or excellently in just one of 7 key behaviors. And the difference is striking, right? Because moving from poor to excellent in a single behavior can lift overall leadership effectiveness from 13 to 86. It's a reminder that leadership doesn't always require changing everything at once. Sometimes focusing on one high impact behavior and doing it exceptionally well can shift a leader is perceived, trusted, and followed. And I love hear from you when leaders are navigating unscripted, high pressure situation, very stressful. How can they identify and double down on the 1 or 2 behavior that will have the greatest ripple effect on their overall effectiveness?
It's a great question and really important. This is where self-reflection, being honest with yourself, is really important. So in my coaching practice, when I'm coaching people one-to-one, one of the tools that I like to use with the right people is the wheel of ... kind of inserts, depending on what they're trying to improve. Wheel of leadership, wheel of life, wheel of finance, wheel of love, whatever that is. And really kind of breaking down kind of 6 to 8 core elements of that thing. So wheel of leadership, communication, trust, operational efficiency, all the different elements that are going to fit in there. And be honest with yourself. How do you score yourself in each of those areas? And there'll be some areas that you're going to be 10 out of 10 in. There's some areas you're going to be 2 out of 10 in. What you tend to find is when you focus on just one element, so that kind of that skill that you've got the lowest score in, when you focus on improving that, what it actually does, that starts to bleed into the other areas that you might be mediocre at. So improving one area actually brings other areas up. When we, and this is something that I've been very guilty of over the years, we try and improve everything because I'm really impatient and I want results right now. I try and improve everything. Actually, nothing improves because we're trying to achieve too much. And there are physical parts of the brain, parts of the limbic system that are designed for routine, how things have always been. It just wants you to carry on because that's safe. It knows how to operate there. So if you try and change too much too quickly, you end up changing nothing. But you focus on one thing, everything else actually kind of grows with that. And that is, for me, the shortest way, not a short way, but the shortest way to go from poor to excellent. So kind of choose that one thing. Gary Keller talks about this in his book, The One Thing. Focus on one area, and that brings everything up.
It's amazing. I love, how you describe that. And I was thinking about you, George, about how you define the impact of AI. In one area, it's impacting others area as well. You define a lot of time this, and it's amazing and inspiring, definition for that. George?
That probably answers Jose's question as well, because what's been written is the daily practice of values and the building of trust over time is critical, which is why leaders need time to be effective, or is it something else? And I think it's probably exactly as Andy said, it's a case of picking on that one thing to bring everything else up.
Yeah, value-based leadership is one of the strongest sources. So I have a real issue with phrases like authentic leadership, because we treat people how we feel about people. So the reality of human life is that there are going to be people you like, people you love, people that you dislike, people that you hate, people that you're neutral about. So if we're being truly authentic and treat people how we feel about them, those people that we dislike or hate, which obviously will be fewer, then your leadership efforts are just going to crumble and die. So actually, what does authentic leadership really mean? Actually, for me, adaptive leadership, value-based leadership, what are the values of the organization? Now, as human beings, we're fallible. We're going to fail every single day in some area of some values because pressures and stresses and things like that get in the way. But if we can be intentional, as Jose said, that daily practice of being intentional to do our best to achieve those values, and we're honest with ourselves, as Steve says, create that habit of awareness, being honest with ourselves, right? Today, I didn't meet this value because of this. So therefore, I'm going to do this in order to make sure that I'm better. And that again, that's another practice that we can do every day that allows our leadership to go from that poor to excellent in a shorter space of time.
I was going to come up with another one. How do you see ambiguity, uncertainty, and other change prevents us from developing habits that would do what is being discussed? How do you do this in uncertainty? Yeah. And I think the big problem there is that when we're looking at planning in uncertainty, we're no longer using what's gone before. We're having to think totally differently, and that sometimes for the leadership can come across as being awkward.
Yeah, and Jose, by the way, I'm absolutely loving your input because there's some really great questions coming out, and this is another one: ambiguity, uncertainty. It brings to mind some work that I've been doing with some clients on imposter syndrome. So obviously there's loads of factors that kind of contribute to that feeling of imposter syndrome, but one of the key ones is the negative self-talk. As if you consider this, what do you do when you've had a bad day? Kind of what's going on up here in the evenings? Often people tell me, well, they're reliving it, they're going over it over and over again, they can't stop that negative cycle, it ruins their evening, sometimes it can ruin the weekend, maybe above. What do you do when you've had success, when you've had a good day? Well, often we just move on. We forget about it. So the saying we learn from our mistakes comes from that kind of behavior, but we can learn from our successes and our wins just as powerfully as we learn from our mistakes. We just don't give ourselves the opportunity to. So when it comes to things like uncertainty, having that ability to think, right, there was another time in my life where I was uncertain, but it went really well. What did I do that contributed to that success? You're not necessarily going to be able to copy and paste because the reason it's uncertain is because it's different, but you can kind of use that to start influencing, right, what was I doing? How was I behaving? Who did I have around me? Who was I relying on? What kind of supports did I need? And then you can start building that into how to address the next step of uncertainty, because anybody who's been in any kind of workplace, private sector, public sector, military, whatever, there's always going to be uncertainty. There's always going to be things that are changing. So using that ability to reflect on where we've succeeded in the past allows you to navigate that with far more confidence.
Amazing, really amazing, Andy. I love, how you describe that. I would like, to discuss about AI now.
Yeah.
Because, that's great. We are discussing about leadership. Don't forget that AI is coming to the area of leadership. And I would like Andy to discuss about this amazing framework, this capture the journey organization are with AI. And it's not just about technology, it's about people. And that's why, I bring here in our discussion is tool-based adoption, workflow transformation, agent-led, all of this with AI is about impacting, as you rightly and wonderfully explained here, is impact task, talent, teams. It's a reminder that AI adoption is much a human transformation, the technological one. And each stage demands new mindset, new skills, and new leadership mindset as well. Andy, and I would love to hear from you as leaders navigate this stage, because a lot of leaders are, involving in this transformation, often without a clear script, how they can ensure AI adoption doesn't just make work faster, actually makes work better for people. And again, increase the trust, adapt capability, collaboration along the way. What is your thoughts?
Yeah, AI, I think, is going to be particularly when quantum starts to become far more. AI is one of those things that's just going to change the world entirely. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I've got no idea. I wish I had a crystal ball and was able to figure that out. But it is going to change fundamentally how the world works. And those organizations that are adopting AI into their practice, they're developing the skills in their people to create the right kind of AI agents, use it, but use it to complement the people rather than replace the people. And I've mentioned that in comments on your posts many times, but I think that's the number one mindset. Things that worry me, I saw this, I won't mention any names, but I saw the CEO of a very successful global well-being company stand up on stage and be proud to say that they reduced their workforce by 25% because of something they saw ChatGPT do. And I'm thinking, I mean, that's a well-being company that's negatively impacting 100 people because of something they saw ChatGPT do. And for me, that kind of attitude is what's going to make AI a negative thing. But if we consider AI as a junior employee, AI that's going to make mistakes, that's going to need help and support, but use it to complement the individuals so the individuals can get through their workload faster, become more productive, then it becomes a massive force multiplier. And it's something that's going to be able to take on. But I think the mindset is it's a junior employee. It still needs support. It still needs its work checked. It still needs its source material, its reference material checked. It can't do everything. It doesn't know everything. So yeah, I'm a big fan. I use it in my business. I'm using it more and more as I'm getting more and more confident in kind of how to ask the right questions, what the kind of information it needs and how to frame it and what have you. And it's making my life much, much easier. So I think companies that adopt it and adopt it early, but use it to help the people who are already there, not to replace them, means that you're going to satisfy that emotional part of the brain, the limbic system that wants to feel safe. But if you're working for an organization that's adopting AI and making people redundant, you're just going to create conflict and tension within that organization, and people are going to be far more resistant because they don't feel safe with it. And that kind of giving that people that safety where it's there to help you, not replace you, I think is one of the most fundamentally important things that we can do.
Yeah, I'm going to add something in here, Nicholas, because I've seen an HR system that was supposed to reduce, we're talking again a very large organization, but it was supposed to reduce the HR workforce by 20%. It came nowhere near that because what they didn't realize was the fact that the AI that they were using actually created more need for internal audit. So the people that would have been lost, a lot of them were actually retained to undertake that audit. So, you have to look very carefully at the introduction of AI and to make sure that you know how it's going to interact with the workflow, but also with the people as well. Totally agree with Andy there.
Absolutely, George. And, Jose is the same, line with you. He's saying AI continues to hallucinate. So it needs human oversight. Even it's very fast, still needs help. This is way as you keep people safe. Absolutely. Absolutely. Very, very interesting, debate about this framework. Thank you so much, Andy and George, for your guidance. So let's only discuss about, and based upon your discussion, about how we can define together what is the unscripted leadership and what is the great definition for that. And this next visual brings you when we talk about unscripted leadership. Is about agility and adaptability, about fostering innovation, empowering team, and navigating uncertainty. Do you agree with this definition? And what kind of, others, characteristic or features you would like, to add?
100% agree with everything. I mentioned the Tannenbaum-Schmidt continuum of leadership earlier. I know there are lots of other models out there that for me, the way my brain works, that's my favorite one because it's simple. It's not about being one type of leader. That agility, that adaptability, to be able to judge what type of leadership is required for that person in this situation with what's going on at the moment, I think is one of the most fundamental things, because then you can step away from, I have to be this type of leader, into, I can be the leader that this requires. And I think that's really important. When it comes to things like fostering innovation, empowering teams, navigating uncertainty, and things like that, that starts to become far more nuanced. So again, it comes back to intent versus interpretation. I can quite honestly sit with a team of people and say, I want your ideas. How can we improve? What can we do better? But I'm also a human being with a limbic system, with parts of the brain that actively wants me to carry on doing things the way it's always been done. It's a part of the brain that has no logic, has no intelligence, has no rational thinking, has no language in it. It just wants you to be safe. So it knows this. So I can have the best intent in the world at and trying to enable innovation, but I'm always going to be working against what's going on up here. In the limbic system, the emotional side of the brain is up to 15 times stronger than the logical part of the brain. So we're always going to lose. We're going to fight a losing battle when we try and fight our emotional center. But if we can work with it, if we can kind of understand, right, okay, this is where we want to be, right? We want to achieve this. And then kind of break down the steps. And as we said earlier about change one thing enables things to go, then it becomes a lot easier to do that. Empowering teams requires boundaries. It requires oversight. I can't just say to an 18-year-old kid who's straight out of college, I'm empowering you to have a £50,000 credit card to run this project. I'm being hyperbolic for impact. Obviously, I know that's not a realistic situation, but that 18-year-old needs a level of empowerment in order to help them grow, but they still need boundaries. They still need oversight, and that happens at every single level. It's just the boundaries widen and the oversight lessens the more experienced people get. Navigating uncertainty. Every human being on the planet has some sort of trauma. And every single human being on the planet has an individual response to that trauma, which is often unconscious. So how one person responds to uncertainty is always going to be different to how a different person. So we can't just have a one-size-fits-all approach. We have to, as I said earlier, get to know the core of that person and what they need in order to be able to be innovative, in order to be able to empower them properly, in order for them to be able to navigate those periods of uncertainty. And it's the nuance and the context that needs to be applied in there that often is where things go wrong, not the intent of the manager or the leadership.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Andy. If we don't have any question in the chat, George, we can go to the next,
yeah, I was just looking at one that says, do you see need to redesign of work and tasks with AI?
Yeah, let's discuss, just after, because one of the news is about, this AI, and I will bring you here automatically during the first news that I have selected for you. Andy, is about AI. As George said, is AI going to steal your job? Because and this news caught my attention because it challenged some of the common fears around AI and jobs. It's a reminder that AI will reshape many occupations, many roles, many in like cleaning, construction, hospitality, and far less likely to be replaced. It's a reminder that the AI conversation is not just about which jobs might disappear, but also how work will evolve, how leaders also needs to be ready, and leadership behavior needs to adapt with this, technology shift, I can say. It's a skills, mindset, opportunity shift. And for your perspective, Andy, when leaders are guiding teams through an AI-driven future, how they can help people see beyond the fear of job loss and instead focus on their new skills, new opportunities that technology will unlock and how they can, tell them that they are safe.
Yeah, so it's a great point, and actually, I don't agree with that headline, because in Japan, there are robot waiters that's using AI in order to be able to do that. So it is going into things like the hospitality sector. So it reminds me of kind of vulnerability. It's kind of the same sort of subject, isn't it? People need to feel safe that their job's not at risk. So it's kind of being vulnerable. And when you're a manager, when you've got a leader, the ability for your team, your staff, to be vulnerable with you is really, really important, because that's how you know what support they need in order to be able to, again, get from them what you need. So there's always going to be different areas for vulnerability, but it's okay not to be okay has become a really cliched saying. And there are so many people out there that have heard so many people say it, but then lost trust because they haven't lived it, again, because of whatever's going on with them at the time. So if the senior leadership team of a company is wants people to adopt AI to bring it into place, rather than saying it's okay to use it, maybe talk about how they're using it. So when you want, as a leader, as a manager, if you want your team to be vulnerable with you and kind of talk about what's going on in their lives, often the best way is to talk about what's going on with you, because then you're not just saying it's okay not to be okay, you're living and breathing it, you're demonstrating, and that's far more powerful. Going first is far more powerful. So as senior leaders, how are you adopting the use of AI? How is it helping you become more productive and things like that? And then that kind of makes it okay, because if AI is not replacing them, there's less chance of it replacing me. And I think that for me is a great first step.
Absolutely. George, any comments?
No, I mean, looking at the comments here, Carlos has said, love this, thank you. Closely aligned to 3 agile leadership mantras I always try to keep top of mind. First one is clarity over certainty. The second, promote self-directed teams. And the third was progress over perfection.
3 really, really important. One of my favorite sayings is there's kindness in clarity. Help people know what it is that's expected of them. When they meet that expectation, reward them, acknowledge it, recognize it. It's massive. I have managed, I met the introduction at the beginning, you said I've worked with some great leaders, I've worked with some terrible leaders. If I'm honest with myself, I've been both a great and a terrible leader, often at the same time, because it's how different people interpret me. I have led teams that have needed their hand to be held every step of the way, and it's such a drain on your own capacity. So yeah, self-directed teams is a massive force multiplier for you. It really helps. And the perfection, if something's 70% good enough, it's good enough as far as I'm concerned, because we just hold back so often when we're just waiting for 100%, because we'll never get it. It doesn't exist.
Thank you, Andy. Let's go to the second news of the week that I have selected. It's about how students, this young generation, thinks about AI, about their fears, about their hope as well, because we are discussing about, students, about college, and I was thinking about, the young people, about AI is coming for them as well, starting the education as well. They are using AI, and it's another topic, but it's not HR topic. I don't know if it's a really HR topic, but the young people education and the professor in the education, they are struggling, to when they have the homework, right? Students are using AI, they are using ChatGPT, to do their homework, etc. How they can evaluate, their work, their understanding, their education, etc. So it's a big challenge for them. But the point here is about the students. We don't always hear about in the leadership discussion, but the next generation of the workforce, because they are, how teenagers are seeing AI, the future of work. Their hopes, their fears, their expectation. Some are worried about job displacement, others are excited about new opportunities. are already thinking about how AI will shape their careers, and they haven't yet started. It's a
Yeah.
reminder that the way we lead today is just influencing our current teams, is also shaping the environment for these future employees. Their trust in leadership, the appetite for innovation, their sense of belonging. Uh, and we built on the foundation of them today, right now. If we are speaking directly to these future workers, the ones who will inherit the AI driven, what would you tell them, you as a coach, as a leadership executive? How do you tell them about how to thrive, adapt, and lead uh, in the world where the script is still being written?
It reminds me of a really cheesy personal development quote that's been around for decades. Be the change you want to see. Um, if if you're kind of coming towards the end of maybe your compulsory education and making a decision of kind of what direction you want your life to take, if you're able to embrace what is going to happen next as early as possible, it just makes you so much more attractive to those organizations that you're a values match for. So a little bit of a dit on this is my daughter's recently graduated from her bachelor degree. She starts her master's next week, and all throughout the 3 years of a bachelor's, I was saying, how can you use AI to help you? And you say, oh no, we're not allowed to use AI. And I understand, because AI has got the ability to just do your essays for you, which isn't learning. However, if you use it as a proofreader, if you kind of ask it to step into the role of being a university lecturer and say, right, have I answered the question? Where am I not really articulating the point well enough? And kind of use it to guide you rather than do it for you, again, it becomes really advantageous. The same can happen in secondary school. If you've got a student that's really struggling with maths and you're a school who is really struggling budget-wise, can't afford to hire teaching assistants, can't afford to hire new teachers, having AI that can that a student can work with in order to help them, not do it for them, but help them develop those maths or English skills, it becomes a massive force multiplier. But then, because ultimately education is there to help prepare people for the future. So if the education system was able to embrace it and make students as young as possible comfortable using it, able to ask it the right questions and give it the right kind of prompts, it just means that those people move into the workforce already fully competent using it. And for me, that can only be good for society.
Absolutely, Andy. Really great advice. Thank you so much.
Jose has just come up with something. It says, way back in the early 2000s, Nesbitt and Ruth Popcorn talked about high touch and high tech, and we need to remember the need for the human to be valued, recognized, wanted, and included. Tech can easily do away with this. Do you see leaders needing to move to high touch leadership?
1000%. I did a webinar earlier this week on a 3-step engagement strategy that I work with my clients on. It's kind of a daily, a weekly, a monthly kind of engagement. So you're able to actually have that human-to-human interaction. I don't know if anybody else feels the same as this, but the more connected we are through technology, actually, the more isolated we're becoming. Things like loneliness, the stats of loneliness have absolutely skyrocketed over the last 10 to 20 years. We're creating a world where people are isolated, but as human beings, anthropologically, we need community. So high tech is brilliant at helping accelerate our progression, but high touch is equally, if not more, important, because it helps us build those communities. It helps us create inside of us things like endorphins, things like serotonin, that kind of those are the community chemicals that help us feel connected, so that when we're struggling, going and asking for help just becomes natural because we're safe within that community. if we don't have the kind of, I'm not talking about physical touch, I'm sure Jose isn't as well, but if we haven't got that kind of high touch, high impact, high engagement within our organizations, we're just going to lose that ability to build the communities. And that's just going to squash performance. It's going to squash potential. It's going to reduce the progress that we can make as society.
And we're seeing this in remote working as well, because Forbes have actually, in their research, found that 44% of Gen Z working remotely found that they felt totally out of the culture of the company they were working for. They felt lonely, they felt despondent, you know, and a lot of this is coming down to the fact that we're more into using tech in some areas and not into actually creating value for the individual. And I think you know that's something that's coming out.
Yeah, and it's quite poignant because I mean I see research that tells us people love remote working. I see research that tells us people hate remote working. So kind of when you're senior leadership team, you're trying to structure your workforce. Well, which one do you go? Because both are as convincing as each other. And again, that's what I talked about. It's kind of what's right for your organisation. But engagement isn't just speaking to people. Engagement is about understanding. There's got to be certain outcomes that come from leadership level engagement, and just saying hi, how you doing, that's not engagement. Little bit honest, maybe too honest. I apologize if this triggers anybody. 2018, I had a breakdown. I was diagnosed with moderate depression, severe anxiety, and I'd probably been on a slippery slope for about 15 years towards that point. Guess what I said every time somebody asked me how I was?
You were fine.
Fine, thanks, you.
Yeah.
It's an automatic response. But that manager now feels that they've engaged with me. They've checked in with me.
Yeah.
But what I'm doing is I'm not trying to lie to them. I'm not hiding, but I'm hiding it from myself. So there's got to be strategy. There's got to be tactics and techniques in order to kind of give us that opportunity to be intuitive and think that person's telling me they're fine, but something's telling me they're not. And it's leaders who are able to do that create that trust to move forward.
It's very inspiring, Andy, what you are saying. And it's a lesson for all the leaders. Leadership is about that. Just saying, how are you is it everything is fine is not enough. Leaders need to search, and especially, and George has highlighted very inspiring way, especially in this hybrid work, we are not every day looking at these people, we are not discussing face to face with our teams, etc. It's very a challenge for a leaders to understand, even in this remote work, if someone is not well. It's very important. Mental health is another topic that we need to, I'm sure that with our guests we will look at it later, but it's very important that you to understand with just how are you, fine is not enough. We need to go deeper understanding. Wow, what a conversation, Andy. Thank you so much for that. Thank you, George.
Pleasure.
That I have a question for you. It's the maybe final question that I'm asking to every guest now every week. Is the final thoughts, is what is your top recommendation for organization, for leaders that you would like to share with us today after this amazing debate?
There's two that come to mind. I'm kind of debating in my mind which one would be which one would come top. I think value-based accountability as a daily practice. How are you in alignment with our values? How are you out of alignment with our values? This is how I've been in alignment. This is how I've been out of alignment. But rather than just being something that looks good on the website, in the employee handbook, maybe up on the walls, but isn't the lived day-to-day experience, I think making value-based accountability a daily practice is just something that's just going to make sure that culture is what you want it to be, not what it really is.
Wonderful, really wonderful, thoughts. Thank you so much for sharing with us during this 1 hour with me and George. It was really, really, really amazing, powerful conversation and mix lot of insight here. We have explored with Andy what it means to lead with the script runs out when building trust in uncertain times, to reframing beliefs, practicing deliberately, and behavior of the leadership is truly important. We have seen how honesty, adaptability, focus, high impact action can transform leadership effectiveness. Thank you, everyone who joined us today. Thank you for your energy, Andy, for your comments as well in the chat that George bring us, uh, to the conversation, for being part of this Lunch and Learn community. I can say George is our 15th one today. The recording will be available on my YouTube channel, and feel free to share it with colleagues, with everyone who would like to join us every Friday. Next Friday we will discuss about personal branding with Christina. She will come back and share some amazing insight about why personal branding is important for HR leaders. I really I invite you to come and to listen to her. Until next time, keep leading with intention, keep conversation ongoing. It's the recording will be available. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful weekend. Thank you so much, Andy, with being with us. Have a wonderful weekend. George, thank you so much. You will be with us next week.
As always, it's been a great session. Really enjoyed it. And thank you very much, Andy.
Thank you so much for inviting me on and having me on, giving me the opportunity to speak to you and your audience. I've loved the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you all for joining us today's session.
Thank you for organizing it.
No, thank you, George. Thank you, Andy, so much. You are always welcome here, and you will be. I'm sure you will see you next time. We'll be back next Friday, lunchtime in Europe. Happy lunch. See you there.